The following video contains information of profound depth and learnedness. It concerns not merely the true origins of the Hermetic mystical tradition, but also the ancient teachings of one of the most mysterious, complex, and yet advanced religions in all history, the essence of which persists in Western esotericism to this day. The script for this video has been adapted from the first volume of historian and theosophist G.R.S. Mead's comprehensive survey of the Hermetic literature, attributed to the legendary Egyptian sage Hermes Trismegistus. In spite of its age and imperfections, it is a work of monumental labour and studiousness, and it is of great value to all students of ancient wisdom. In its standard form, the survey simultaneously analyzes information from Egyptian, Greek, and Christian Gnostic sources, so that to cover it all in a single video would be total information overload. I have reorganized and simplified this text for the benefit of the viewer into 3 parts accordingly. In the present video, we shall explore the Egyptian origins of the Hermetic tradition. 2 further videos, covering the connection to Greek philosophy and Christian religion, will be linked in the description when available. I hope you enjoy. Chapter 1. The Remains of the Hermetic Literature. The Greek Hermetic literature falls under 5 categories: the Corpus Hermeticum, the Perfect Sermon or Asclepius, excerpts from Joannes Stobaeus, references and fragments from the Church Fathers, and references and fragments from the philosophers. Although it may seem like a small number of remains, we should remember that much of the Hermetic literature was kept secret. We are fortunate for what has been preserved, and even with the corpus, we only have a fraction of the original literature. We will encounter many references to lost writings, and we will attempt to form an understanding of the nature of this literature. Chapter 6. An Egyptian prototype of the main features of the Poimandres Cosmogony. All Hermetic literature refers back to the Poimandres instruction as the earliest form of the tradition. The Poimandres document is a visionary work, and its author was surely influenced by the religious, mystical, philosophical, and scientific thought of their time. A distinct prototype to its cosmogony can be found in an 8th century BCE Egyptian inscription now housed at the British Museum, which reveals the Ptah doctrine. Ptah, associated with craftsmanship, is the demiurge, and closely connected to the supreme deity, Atum. Atum emanates 8 deities, each being a distinctive epithet of Ptah. The 4th deity, Ptah the Great, is the focus of the theological system. The inscription describes Ptah as the heart and tongue of the gods, who is praised for creating and sustaining all things. The system emphasizes the unity of multiple gods and the shared attributes between them. Ptah the Great is the central figure, and Horus and Thoth represent the heart and tongue of Ptah. This syncretic system is introduced alongside the Osiris myth, highlighting the roles of Horus and Thoth. Such syncretism was common in Egypt, where the coexistence of multiple gods necessitated a unified understanding of their attributes. The inscription provides valuable insights into the Egyptian influence on the main elements of the Poimandres Cosmogony. The combination of Atum, Ptah, and Thoth aligns with the Greek nomenclature of Theos, Demiurgos Nous, and Logos, or rather of God, the demiurgic mind, and the Word. Ptah, as mind, imparts wisdom and reveals himself to the pious. These Egyptian concepts dispel the notion that the Hermetic corpus is a Neoplatonic forgery. The essential ideas in the Poimandres are genuinely Egyptian. Chapter 16. The Disciples of Thrice-Greatest Hermes. During the Old Kingdom, the great triad of Memphis consisted of Ptah, Sekhmet, and Nefertem. Ptah, the demiurge, was the creator and sculptor. Sekhmet, his counterpart, was his sister-wife and mother of Nefertem. As Ptah is the executive power of Thoth and his 7 wise ones, so is Thoth the personification of the intelligence of Ptah. Sekhmet is thus identified with Mart, the spouse of Thoth. Nefertem, or the young Atum, is the 3rd member of the Memphite triad. In the Ptah tradition, Nephitem is associated with the forms of Horus and Thoth. This tradition explains the identification and distinction of Thoth and Ptah, as well as Maat and Sekhmet. As the son of Ptah, Nephitem represents the young Thoth, who succeeds his father. However, sometimes the third member of the Memphite triad is stated to be a different son of Ptah, Imhotep, who was equated with the Greek deity Asclepius and was associated with healing, study, and funeral ceremonies. Imhotep also absorbed the duties of Thoth as the scribe of the gods, and was credited with the words of power that protect the dead. His temple was located near Memphis, and later on the island of Philae. Imhotep Asclepius was considered the image and likeness of Thoth the Wise, and was revered as the good physician, who healed both gods and mortals. In the Hermetic literature, instructional sermons are addressed to both Asclepius and Tat, the son of Hermes. Tat is just a variant of Thoth, characterized as young in contrast to Hermes's thrice-greatest status. Nechepso and Petasiris in the 2nd century BCE depict Hermes as the teacher of Anubis and Asclepius, so the original source of the Hermetic works must predate the 2nd century BCE. In the 3rd century BCE, the Egyptian priest and historian Manetho wrote of a king of the 3rd dynasty around 3700 BCE called Tosothris. Tosothris was also called Asclepius and is stated to have built a house of hewn stones. In fact, excavations at the Step Pyramid of Saqqara confirm that its construction can be attributed to Tosothris. The sacred art of building was of special importance to Asclepius, as evidenced by a book on temple building ascribed to Imuth, the Greek name for Imhotep. Kings Ptolemy X and XI supposedly used this book to build the Temple of Horus at Edfu. The widespread influence of the cult of Asclepius in Greece is well known, and there are even similarities between Asclepius and Jesus, such as their miraculous births, healing abilities, and divine titles. Asclepius's worship spread throughout Greece, Rome, and the eastern Mediterranean, with numerous sanctuaries and medical schools dedicated to him. The god was believed to reveal himself to those seeking his aid, and this influenced later Christianity as a religion of healing and salvation. In the Perfect Sermon, Hermes instructs his 3 disciples, Asclepius, Tat, and Ammon, forming a sacred group of 4. This sacred triad of disciples is comparable to the close group of 3 disciples in the Bible, James, John, and Peter. Clement of Alexandria affirms that after the resurrection, Jesus imparted gnosis to James, John, and Peter, who then passed it on to the rest of the apostles. Asclepius parallels James in Christian tradition, representing the main subsequent teacher, while Peter symbolizes the organizer, equated with Ammon. John, the beloved, then aligns with Tat, who best understands the spiritual teaching. In a pivotal moment, the master designates John as the spiritual successor of the school, similar to Tat's role in the sermons. Chapter 5. The main source of the Hermetic literature. Greek thought and philosophy strongly embraced Egyptian wisdom during the Ptolemaic dynasty in Alexandria, which lasted from 305 to 30 BCE. Statues of Hermes with the feather of truth or a papyrus roll, symbolizing his dual role as revealer and scribe, were created during this period. Mystical literature emerged, and fragments remain that affirm the existence of books on similar subjects as the Hermetic literature in the Middle Ptolemaic era. During this time, there was a fervor for translating and summarizing ancient scriptures and records into Greek. Manetho, a priest of Heliopolis, played a significant role in introducing Egyptian mysticism, theology, mythology, history, and chronology to the Greek world. While his works are mostly lost, fragments quoted by later writers provide valuable insights into Egyptian wisdom. The Book of Sothis, purporting to have been written by Manetho, contains an exchange between Manetho and Ptolemy II, which reveals Ptolemy's interest in Egypt's past and future. Manetho promises to show Ptolemy the sacred books attributed to Hermes the Thrice-Greatest, which represent different epochs of Egyptian tradition, including the time before the flood, the mystery school after the flood, and the priesthood of Manetho's era. Modern scholars dismiss the authenticity of the Book of Sothis based on claims that terms and concepts used in it were not present in ancient Egypt, such as the term venerable. They also dispute several claims made in the book, such as the existence of a flood, and the Syriadic land where there were monuments with hieroglyphics written by Thoth. Furthermore, they consider the term Trismegistus to be a later addition. However, the term venerable was used for Roman emperors as Augustus as early as 58 BCE. Moreover, Plato tells us that Solon learned about a great flood from Egyptian priests. The Syriadic land is likely related to the astrological significance of Sirius, and monuments commonly served as autochronous landmarks, preserving astronomical, geographical, and geological knowledge. Both Plato and Pythagoras are said to have learned from such monuments. And finally, the Rosetta Stone from 196 BCE refers to Hermes as the Great and Great, or rather at least twice great. Yet, the Egyptian Hermetic tradition also influenced the historical writings of nations other than Greece, such as Phoenicia. The Phoenician histories of Philo from around 100 CE suggest that both Egypt and Phoenicia derived their cosmogonical knowledge from the ancient books of Thoth. While the authenticity of Philo's Phoenician document is also debatable, it contains translated passages that reflect Egyptian elements, and Philo's own editions can be distinguished from the translated content. Philo attributes the discovery of writing to Tautus, whom the Egyptians called Thoth, the Alexandrians Thoth, and the Greeks Hermes. Philo's work is a paraphrase and summary of earlier work by the Phoenician author Sanchuniathon from around 1200 BCE. If we are to trust this source, Sanchuniathon's source for the beginning of all things must have been the Books of Thoth. According to the work, the interweaving of the spirit and chaos gave rise to love, the origin of creation. From this embrace, Mot, the Great Mother, was born and birthed all cosmic bodies. This account comes from the Cosmogony of Tautus, which was first recorded by the 7 sons of Sédic and their 8th brother, Asclepius. Sédic was a Canaanite deity worshipped in pre-Israelite Jerusalem. The word literally means righteousness, and is preserved in the name Melchizedek, the king of Salem described in the Hebrew Bible. This all provides more evidence to support the idea that both Sanchuniathon and the writer of the Poimandres drew their account of cosmogony from the Egyptian mystery tradition, and likely the Books of Thoth. Chapter 3. Thoth, the Master of Wisdom. In this final chapter, we shall explore in some detail the nature of Thoth, the Egyptian deity associated with wisdom and truth. Thoth's origins trace to an ibis-headed moon god, referred to as Tehuti in Egyptian tradition. Thoth embodies the master of the heart and reason in all men. He is the heart of the world, directing and permeating all things. As the master architect, Thoth establishes order and builds temples. As the mediator, Thoth manifests the world through sacred speech. He is the god of writing, arts, sciences, and the patron of libraries and scribes. Thoth's influence extends to medicine, employing mesmeric methods and magic formulae. He is revered as Thoth, Lord of Heaven, who givest all life, all health. As Lord of Rebirth, Thoth grants life in the land of the living, the glorious realm of light and life in the visions of the ancient Egyptian seers. In the Book of the Dead and similar texts, Thoth and Mart are depicted alongside the great god Ra in his boat, symbolizing their timeless existence. Mart is the feminine counterpart of Thoth, representing truth and righteousness. Her name embodies qualities of what is genuine, upright, and unchanging. As Lord of Khemennu or Hermopolis, Thoth is hailed as the unique, self-created god. He is the divine measurer, the Logos, who counts the heavens and the earth. Thoth is also titled Lord of Divine Words, Lord of Mart, and the Judge of Horus and Set. He is revered as the twice great and thrice great, and is the patron of literature. His words hold power, and his teachings speak of spiritual transformation. In the Book of the Dead, Thoth's influence surpasses even that of Osiris and Ra. Thoth is often depicted as an ibis, or a dog-headed ape. The ibis represents wisdom among birds, while the ape symbolizes wisdom among animals. The name Tehuti possibly derives from tek, meaning weight, or the word for heart. It is speculated that the ibis symbol replaced the sacred heart symbol for Thoth, who presided over the weighing of the heart. In the Book of the Dead, the dog-headed ape is associated with Thoth as the balancer. Hermopolis, known in Egypt as Khemennu, was the main centre for the cult of Thoth. It also held significance in Egyptian mythology as the place where Ra first rose. Speculatively, it may represent the mountain of the secret sermon on the mountain, and the inner journey of initiates to attain spiritual enlightenment. As the head of the Company of Eight in Khemennu, Thoth represents 4 pairs of male and female powers, embodying the Gnostic Ogdoad. The eternal struggle between light and darkness finds various versions, but the role of Thoth remains constant as the arbiter, maintaining balance and preventing the gods from annihilating each other. The Temple of Thoth at Khemennu, known as Het Abtit, or House of the Net, holds a mysterious significance. The net represents a state of inner confinement and limitation, trapping individuals in the conventional world and obscuring their true selves. However, the net can be transformed by those who receive the mind, allowing them to catch spiritual sustenance and become fishers of men. The ancient concept of a net is also found in Assyrian, Babylonian and Orphic traditions, representing the struggle between opposing forces and the need for equilibrium. Thoth is also the heart and tongue of Ra, representing the reason and mental powers of the Supreme. As the Logos, he utters the creative word, manifesting the will of the Supreme through compelling orders of necessity and law. Thoth's words brought about the creation of the heavens and the earth, revived Osiris and resurrected Horus. We now turn to a scholar whose views are considered unorthodox by conservative and unimaginative critics, who confine themselves solely to externals and to the lowest and most physical meanings of the hieroglyphics. We turn to one who has, I believe, come nearer to the truth than any of his critics, and whose labours are most highly appreciated by all lovers of Egyptian mystic lore. W. Marsham Adams's book, The House of the Hidden Places, provides a profoundly intuitional interpretation of the Great Pyramid and the Book of the Dead, which Marsham tells us was called by the Egyptian priests the Book of the Master of the Secret House. The Secret House was, of course, the Great Pyramid, otherwise called the Light. In the religion of Egypt, the visible creation mirrored the unseen world, offering a path of initiation, illumination, and perfection, which reflect the 3 regions of the land of the departed, Rusta, Alu, and Amenti. Thoth serves as the guide through these stages, and we are told that he adorns the spirit of the justified with a garment of pure linen, symbolizing the radiance acquired when turning to the Creator. Initiates were instructed from a secret scroll, which was the Book of the Master of the Secret House, and which contained the greatest mysteries. Instruction in light and life was the central theme, and the scripture had 3 functions: instruction and initiation, the recitation of the instruction over the uninitiated dead, and the burying of chapters with the dead as talismans for protection. The mystic writings describe the path of the just, progressing through stages of spiritual growth. There are 3 modes of knowledge communication: simple instruction, distant vision, and personal participation. The initiation involves union with the higher ego and pure mind. Many beautiful and interesting passages could be quoted from Marsham Adams's study, and we don't have time to cover it all here. But if even a small portion of what Adams writes is true, our case would be established, and we could conclude that the wisdom of Egypt is undoubtedly the main source of the Hermetic treatises. And if Egypt did not teach this wisdom, then we must bow down before Mr. Adams as the inventor of one of the most grandiose religions in history. Nevertheless, the student of the inner nature will know that it is not an invention. And that ends the first part of this series of 3 videos on the history of the Hermetic tradition. Be sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications on so that you do not miss the next part, in which we shall explore in depth the fascinating connection between Hermeticism and the Platonic and Pythagorean philosophies. And if you'd like to support this project, you can find out how to do so in the description below. Thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your day.